Nosferatu is the latest film from director Robert Eggers. This is, of course, a remake of the 1920s German silent film of the same name. From what I understand, that movie was made because they could not get the rights to Bram Stoker's Dracula, so they skirted the copyright line as much as they could and made this. It's their new own thing. And this film follows the woman Ellen Hutter, played by Lily Rose Depp, who is haunted by the image, the voice, the call of Count Orlock, who is an ancient vampire who is obsessed with her, causes a lot of problems for not just her and her loved ones, her husband, Thomas Hutter, played by Nicholas Hoult, or her friends, but also the city of London, because of course he brings insanity, he brings the plague, he brings this darkness, overwhelming Germany. As far as Nosferatu goes, I have not really seen those movies until recently in preparation for this. The original film, the 20s one, yeah, it's a part of film history, and there's plenty of striking visuals as far as what they were able to do back in the day. I wouldn't say I love that movie though. Is it the best movie they could have made at the time? I think you might even have some debate with that, looking at, what they were able to do with, the symphony and the title cards for dialogue. There's probably some better ways they could have gone about making that. That could just be hindsight from the year 2024. I tried to think in the mindset of their own limitations. I also watched the Werner Herzog remake, the one from the 70s, right before seeing this one, and I like that one as well. I do think it's better than the original, the 20s one. I wouldn't say I love that one either. I think both movies, they have some really impressive imagery. I wouldn't say I was ever, scared or in suspense by them, mostly because the way they, frame up Count Orlock, I don't know what it is. It could, once again, it could just be, present day 2024 mind here. But every single time they, frame up Orlock, I'm almost expecting, in the case of, the 20s movie, the Three Stooges to, start walking in. Or, just, they kind of have him just kind of casually hanging out, and I don't really feel any, terror coming from Thomas or anyone like that. So it's always, they frame him up as if it's a comedy is what I'm saying. And I can never really take that part of it seriously as far as the initial seduction and the introduction to that character. So I can't really say I love either of those movies. I do appreciate a lot of what they were able to do at the time and, their contributions to film history. But it made me way more excited for this new one because of Robert Eggers' involvement. This is a passion project for him, and I think he is one of our best filmmakers working today. I've loved every single one of his movies, from The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman even. I know that one might be a little bit more divisive, but I love that one as well. And I just thought, Nosferatu, that's a perfect thing for him to do. And if you didn't think that before, it only takes a couple minutes of watching this movie to realize, yeah, that is absolutely true. Just every single frame of this movie is a work of art. It's kind of crazy, for a movie that has such a muted color palette, I would say, for a good majority of it. Every once in a while you might get a douse of some new color, right? But for the most part, it's very gray, maybe the brightest color you get is a dark blue. But it just goes to show you, as far as movie making, it takes a lot more, the work put into that to create striking visuals as opposed to just what you have on the day and just raw footage of the camera filming stuff. It takes that editing, it takes the post-production color correction, it takes the lighting, the blocking on the day, the cinematography. Jaron Blaschke, once again working on this, he's been Robert Eggers' cinematographer ever since The Witch. He worked on all of them. And this is just another great pairing for them. Whenever I hear the term gothic horror, you got a couple different examples that come up, but for a while at least, I'm probably going to be thinking of this movie. Just every single frame is just dripping with this gothic kind of dread that's just overwhelming every single frame of this movie, and I fucking loved watching it. There's so many shots where I'm just oh my gosh, how do they make it look that good? Several nighttime photography parts where, as far as modern filmmaking goes, nighttime, I feel like it's a bit of a hurdle for some people for whatever reason. Some people can't quite figure it out. Looks too dark for some people, especially when you get home and you have to deal with, we're not in a theater. Wherever people have their TV set up, where's the glare coming from, This movie, though, has these striking, beautiful nighttime shots where I'm God, they need to teach more people how to do this for their other productions. This is fucking great. You're not losing any details, you're getting everything. In combination with that, you have this great, fantastic attention to detail as far as the costume design, the set design. There's no point where I'm well, they're clearly on some soundstage somewhere. They're on a set. Everything just looks so precise and lived in, the clothes they're wearing, it never feels like you're watching people in costumes. They've successfully, through the lens of filmmaking, transported the audience, directly into the scenes. Like, you're just watching people live their lives. It's not actors playing dress up. Like, this might as well just be those people. This kind of magic tricks I fucking love when it comes to great films. And they once again pull that off here. So many parts because of the visuals that they have, the team behind the camera, where I was just like I wouldn't say I was like scared or I was like biting my nails off, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But I was just kind of like anticipating stuff all the time. Like, I don't know what kind of edit they're about to do, what they're going to cut to, or what these actors have been directed to do next. Like, I know where the story is going because, I've seen the other two versions, but Robert Eggers really is making this his own. A lot of great choices, especially when it comes to how he's embracing the narrative and the themes that are surrounding it, that I was kind of like, I don't know, like, I'm really into it though, like that kind of nervous anticipation that I think they built on really well here. Like, especially when it comes to like Nicholas Holt's Thomas Hutter, who is, once again, fantastic. He's usually fantastic in everything, right? And he's had a great year. He's great in this movie, but especially for the reason of, what I was kind of talking about before with the other Nosferatu films, is that I always kind of felt like when Thomas meets Nosferatu, there's a bit of a disconnect for me, because I'm like, I don't really buy any of this as far as like, it feels too silly. I'm not necessarily in fear of Count Orlock. The actors are doing a fine job, for what they've been directed to do, but there is a disconnect as far as like, why is Thomas acting this way? Like, he's a little bit more chill with this when Count Orlock is like a very obvious freak. I think this movie actually does a really fantastic job, and Nicholas Holt's performance as well. They do a really great job of setting the stage for like this trance-like, nightmare kind of like scenario that they put him in. Like, before he even gets to Count Orlock's castle, they play a bit with like his dreams. Like, one of those things where, he thinks he sees something. Is it a dream? I don't know because of this, So they already kind of like with that scene, like set the stage for like a messing with his mind a bit. And a certain little thing that happens right before he gets to the castle too, like sets the stage for, could this character still be thinking he's in a dream and not just quite realizing it? It's kind of hard to describe without spoiling it, but I kind of just want people to just go see it. like how they kind of do that. It sets the stage for when he goes to that castle. And, because of the way they frame Orlock, he's in the shadows for so much of it, out of focus from the lens. But the little brief glimpses that you can make out of him, you're like, it could just be a normal guy, though, just with a Transylvanian accent, like maybe he's an older guy with a Transylvanian accent, but it could be a normal guy. He's just always in the shadows. But the longer that he talks, the longer that he's there, and, the way that they have structured the scene, the longer that Nicholas Hoult is in the castle, they do a really great job of creating this, like, very dreamlike kind of scenario where I can actually buy this time, like, the series of events that are in this story. Like, I really do think Robert Eggers maybe potentially even saw what I was kind of describing with the other two and was like, we really need to emphasize how much of a nightmare this kind of feels like. That, like, this character, he's trying to go about this and he's trying to, he's an upstanding, up and coming, like, young man, trying to make his way in the workforce, whatever. So he's trying to get this real estate, account closed. But he's like slowly kind of like losing his grip on reality, like slowly kind of wearing him down. I thought they did a much better job with that this time around. And it also, of course, helps that Count Orlock looks fucking freaky as hell. Now, here's the thing. Bill Skarsgard is in this movie, and I knew that before. I knew he was announced as Count Orlock, and I know many people that were seeing the movie were like, man, you're not even gonna, he's unrecognizable. And I always I take kind of stuff like that with a grain of salt, because I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, I've seen so many movies where people say they're unrecognizable, but it's like, I don't know, their nose is different. They just look slightly different than what they usually do. Even like Colin Farrell in The Penguin, like, I think a lot of people say unrecognizable. I think maybe it's just, I've seen it so much at this point, I can see the Colin Farrell in him. They've touched up his face, obviously. I can see him, though. I recognize that is him putting on a voice. Bill Skarsgård as Orlock, I did not quite realize how, much he was going to disappear behind the makeup. Like, when they don't keep him in shadows forever. At a certain point, they do start, putting him center frame all the time, like in focus. But I'm like staring at this face, and I'm like, I can't even see where they built the makeup onto the Bill Skarsgård face. Like, I can't tell at all that is him. Also, when he speaks, I'm like, this doesn't even sound like it. It doesn't even sound like him doing Pennywise. What's going on? I think he said that he like trained with like an opera singer on how to like lower his voice to hit a certain way, and maybe they did some other post-production stuff after the fact, but I want to say most of it was in fact him doing this skill that he learned with his voice. And my God, like, as far as, like, disappearing into a role, truly, like, unrecognizable. Yeah, if you did not know Bill Skarsgard was in this movie, you would be shocked seeing his name pop up first in the credits. Like, was he in this? Oh, he was that guy? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I really love the makeup effects going into him, you know, how they've created this character this time around, the little details on him. I loved every single thing about that. God, it's such a transformation. But not to be overlooked, Lily Rose Depp. Now, back when, you know, it was in development, you know, Anya Taylor-Joy was attached at one point. Movie kind of fell apart and then got, you know, brought back again, but she was busy with other stuff, so they need to get a new actress, and that's Lily Rose Depp. And I think it was too fresh off of The Idol for me, you know, as far as like when the promos really got started and I realized like, yeah, it's a Lily Rose Depp. Where I was like, man, The Idol is just a fucking terrible show. It's so awful, you know, and no one, she isn't the worst actor in it, but no one is particularly good. So I'm waiting for this Nosferatu movie, and I'm still like, this is like the one hurdle that like she really has to like prove herself here. Her first couple scenes, I'm like, okay, yeah, clearly The Idol is just a Sam Levinson, Abel Tesfaye kind of thing. Like, you know, give this actress to any other director and she can do great work, and that's what Robert Eggers got out of her here. I am not sure what kind of state, you know, as an actor you need to be in to do some of the stuff that she does here. And there have been a lot of great performances where I'm like, gosh, that's crazy, you know, for this year alone. But man, what she's able to do with her body in this, you know, and they also, it's practical, there's no digital touch-ups there, she's just able to do some of this stuff. It kind of freaks me out, you know what I mean? Like, God, there's so many shots that just like linger on like her convulsions or just these weird things she's doing with her body, and I'm just in awe, you know, of what she's able to do. But it's not just, you know, she can like convulse her body really well. Like, she really is like a really fantastic dramatic actress in this. Like, so many parts where she's starting to speak and then the emotion kind of overtakes. But it's kind of emotion where you can't quite tell, like, is it sad? Is it like scared? Or is it kind of happy? You know, some of the stuff that she's describing. It helps that like the narrative best fits that. You know, you have this character Ellen who is in this Germany that is just, it's so drab and it's so dull, and she, you know, is at a certain point of time where like it's expected of men to do all the stuff for the family, you know, you stay home and raise the kids, whatever. You know, she's living in this kind of time period, but she is having these thoughts, you know, these imaginations. She desires a certain kind of connection before she meets Thomas, that she is not quite getting. So a large part of her story and why like these emotional swings really work, you know, has to do with how she, you know, she is a woman in this time who is struggling to find not just even like a true proper, you know, connection in life, but also trying to find out like what her purpose is in all of this. Where does she fit, especially with all of this other, you know, bad stuff that is now coming forward to Germany with Count Orlock's, you know, presence, his growing presence, right? And being able to like finally in her life, you know, being a woman in that time, you know, making a choice that's for herself. And I just thought, you know, a lot of the stuff that, you know, that has been present in the other adaptations for sure, but just brought back here, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe how, you know, someone does something better, you know, when something before was already kind of good. I don't know, just certain things just like clicked for me a lot more as far as the narrative and the storytelling in this. And I just a huge testament to not just Eggers, but also the great cast and the great, you know, filmmakers, the crew that were working on this as well. Want to give some other shout outs to some actors really quick. Aaron Taylor Johnson, glad to see you in a good one, mate, instead of Kraven the Hunter. Yeah, like this goes to show, if you just saw Kraven, you will be like relieved to see him in this. You know, he's doing a good job here. Willem Dafoe offers some good comedy. I'm glad that he and Robert Eggers keep working together ever since The Lighthouse. You know, Von Franz is so fun in this. But never in a way that feels like it's a, you know, sore thumb sticking out, you know, like he fits in pretty well with the narrative. There's a couple parts, like Ralph Ineson, for example, says something so dryly in this in response to something that kind of got a good chuckle out of me. Robert Eggers is like a bit of like a under the radar kind of funny guy. I would say even The Northman kind of has some points where, you know, it's definitely like trying to make fun of certain things regarding that kind of movie. So he's always been a funny guy, you know, with these movies. The Witch probably less so. well. But like Lighthouse has its funny bits, Willem Dafoe also, Northman, and this. So yeah, it's this drab, you know, suspenseful, you know, weirdly, like darkly romantic, sexual, scary film. But it also has moments of comedy that work so well. I'm gonna give Nosferatu an A+. I don't know what else I can add to this. You know, it's so fantastic. I love how Robert Eggers adapted this story and really, you know, pushed forward some ideas that didn't really quite click with me as much before. I love the actors in this. They all do a fantastic job. I love the technical craft on display, the musical score, the cinematography, set design, costume design, these practical effects they add in. Gosh, just everything about this is just exactly what I love so much about movies. You know, a great sense of fear, but a great technical competency in every single frame. Man, go see Nosferatu. You know, we gotta keep the Nosferatu train rolling. This is quite fantastic, a really great achievement. It's really hard to rank his movies for sure because they're all so fantastic in their own ways. I think this one might be my favorite though. You know, it might be between this and The Lighthouse, but then again, The Witch is so fantastic, and I think The Northman needs another watch from not just me, from so many other people. But that's just Eggers for you. He's that good. But if you've seen Nosferatu, leave your thoughts in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.